It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Kyle Benedict as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. It is awesome to have you in studio with us today. Sue Rutherford is back with us, and you're the executive director, but you know what I don't have is you're the executive director of what?
I am the executive director now of what's called Arizona Crisis Team.
Arizona Crisis Team, and the website is azcrisisteam.org. Phone number is 928-515-4173. You contacted me a couple weeks back.
Yes.
First of all, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How
It's
are
really
you?
great to have you in studio. It's good
you.
to see you. I like seeing Sue at least once or twice a year. We always do once or twice.
Yeah.
The Trauma Intervention Program is why you'd always come over here.
Yes.
We'd sit down and we'd talk about TIP and what TIP was, and we'll get into that. But what happened to TIP, Trauma Intervention Program?
Okay, well, TIP, as you know, was very active for 17 years. I was part of it. And the decision came about that we were going to close Trauma Intervention Program, TIP. And it was due we have TIP did have an agreement with the national organization. And that agreement became very difficult, very expensive. It wasn't cost effective for us. We didn't get a lot of benefit out of the agreement. And so the decision came from a lot of the board members and so on for some time that we needed to break away from the national organization.
Okay.
So So to do that, we had to close down.
So what were some of the benefits that you were lacking?
Let's put it, what were the benefits we were receiving might be easier for me.
Okay.
They, developed the volunteer training program for our volunteers.
Okay.
And I think that was the benefit.
Okay.
You know, yeah.
Okay.
And so we always thought that the training was very unique and special, but then after a lot of research, we found that it's very similar to other crisis response teams around the United States, the training.
Okay. So when did this all take place?
We closed our doors with TIP of Arizona on it'd actually be right as it turned midnight on July 1st. So June 30th was our last full day.
So just a few days ago.
Yes.
Okay, just a few days. Okay. Oh. So, and then obviously you've been working on getting the Arizona Crisis Team organized.
Yes, that got organized, the Arizona Crisis Team, and then I started it on July 1st as the executive director of that program.
Okay.
So it's another crisis response team. It actually, since TIP of Arizona no longer exists, now Arizona Crisis Team fulfills the same the services that TIP used to provide to all the agencies.
No gap?
No gap.
No gap in service.
Arizona Crisis Team was able to create no gap.
Oh wow! So I'm thinking to myself, all the local fire agencies, police agencies,
there was no gap.
Yeah, they've been using the Trauma Intervention Program for, well, you said 17 years. We've had you coming in for all these years talking about it and how the program works. So that's pretty nice that they can fall back on this. But was it difficult to get a hold of everybody and kind of get their heads wrapped around this? Everyone fine?
A lot of our board members are the agency chiefs and belong to and they were, many of them were wanting the break from TIP of Arizona.
Okay.
So they were supportive, very supportive of what was going on.
So how hard is it to set something like this up, Sue? It's got to be kind of a trick, right?
Well, there's a lot of attorneys and insurance agents, accountants, CPAs, et cetera, that were involved in setting that up. Yeah.
Are you still 501c3?
501c3.
What does that mean for those who don't know?
We're a nonprofit. We're a charity, so they can donate to us if they want, but we're volunteer-based. So all but two of us, myself and a part-time staff person, everybody else, they're volunteers. We have about 50 volunteers still throughout Yavapai County. We respond to all the same areas that TIP of Arizona responded to, and so already we're busy.
Okay, so you're serving Yavapai County?
Most of Yavapai County, yes.
Okay.
There's some areas like Baghdad, it's Yarnell, because of the distance to get a volunteer to that area.
Mm-hmm. So I would imagine anybody listening right now that can hear us in Baghdad, Yarnell, Skull Valley?
Yeah, we can go out. That's not too bad for our Prescott volunteers.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, that's
but
not too bad.
It would be ideal probably to have a couple of folks down in that area that you could call up and say, you know, if we need you to
they would
respond.
go through our training and they could become a volunteer. Yeah, we will drive down sometimes to Black Canyon City, which is quite a distance too. But when we're called to those really far distance areas, because what it is it's very important that our volunteers are there quickly. So usually we have our goal is a 30-minute response time.
Right.
So if we're going to Black Canyon City, you're talking an hour, you know. And usually what we say is a call could be wrapping up at that time. So the deputy, maybe it could be Yavapai County Sheriff's Office that requests us for that area, because we have an agreement with them. So they would usually it's a call that's going to last quite a while, and it's pretty significant. So we'll get a volunteer down.
Yeah, I guess the idea is to really have you there while they're investigating or putting the fire out or investigating if there a crime occurred, and then you're there at the same time so you can take care of the victims and the victim family.
Yes.
While at the same time they're doing their job, so they're not standing there waiting for you to show up.
Right. It frees them up to concentrate on their job, and then we can do our job. And our tagline with Arizona Crisis Team is advocates with compassion during tragedies. So our emphasis for us is that we're advocates. We're advocates for our clients, we call them. That could be the victim or the family, depending on the situation. And we're also advocates for the emergency personnel. You know, so our goal is to kind of we're going to get what they need. Let me give you an example. We just had a call on July 1st, and it was a structure fire that had occurred, and actually the gentleman who lived in the house was taken to the hospital. And the fire inspector was over at the scene, and they had some questions, but they needed to investigate the scene, so they really didn't want to leave. So they could call our volunteer who was at the hospital with the victim and his son and help get the questions, you know, get them on the phone. We can do a lot of that.
Kind of relay that information. Okay.
Yeah, so have the communication going that needs to be done.
Maybe we should take our first break, like 60 seconds, or we'll come back and we'll talk more about exactly what the volunteers do and get into that more, okay? Sue Rutherford, Executive Director of Arizona Crisis Team. Their website is azcrisisteam.org. The phone number is 928-515-4173. This is Countywide. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
You. Yeah, you. Getting that college education, what are you gonna do? Graduate and take some office job? Be like everybody else?
Or will you dare do something different?
Like, be a teacher. You could be my teacher. You got the skills, the smarts.
Yes, you.
You could be the teacher I never forget.
That'd be cool.
Does that corporate job even have recess? What are you gonna make of yourself?
What are you gonna make of me?
The Q102.9 plays all the hits.
Yo, what's going on? This is Drizzy Drake.
Ariana Grande.
Maroon 5.
This is Rihanna.
I'm Shawn Mendes.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
Ed Sheeran.
What's up, guys? It's Justin Bieber.
You're listening to The Weeknd.
Start your day with Brian James in the morning. You'll get at least 10 songs in a row during your ride home with Julie Page.
Zach Sang Show.
Catch the Zach Sang Show weeknights 7 to midnight. And Kelly Fox weekends on your home for hit music. The Q102.9 and 104.9 in Prescott and Cottonwood.
Stand with me. Be drug-free.
Stand with me. Be drug-free.
To make a difference, we must stand together. Stand with me. Be drug-free. supporting our families, and listening to our teens.
Stand with me, be drug-free.
Stand with me, be drug-free.
We are all one. No one is immune.
Stand with me, be drug-free.
Let's stand together for a healthier community.
Stand with me, be drug-free.
Welcome back to Countywide. Sue Rutherford in studio with us today from the Arizona Crisis Team. The website again is azcrisisteam.org. Phone number is 928-515-4173. Let's talk about AZ Crisis Team. Exactly what is it and how does it work?
Okay, so we are a volunteer-based organization that we are requested by the firefighters, the hospital personnel, or the law enforcement when there has been any type of crisis. So it could be a death, it could be a suicide, it could be a structure fire, medical emergency, anything where they request us to come out and be with the family, the friends, the victim, et cetera, depending on the situation, to get them through the first few hours of that crisis. So our goal is we understand the system, we understand what's going on from the other end, and then we can be their advocate, we can be their liaison, we can make sure their questions are answered. We can provide psychological first aid, they call it, kind of like emotional support.
We talked about that recently on the show.
Have you? Okay. So our volunteers are trained on how to be with people during a crisis, what to say, and so on. And then they're trained on the practical side. So what's going to happen during that situation, and that then they can help their clients. They're also trained on all the resources that are in the community that we can help pass on to them. So where do they need to go from there, if they do?
You're kind of like a second head on someone's shoulders, because if I've got some kind of traumatic thing happening in my world, I'm probably pretty consumed by that.
Yes.
So it's nice to have Jiminy Cricket over here saying, hey, don't forget you're going to have to do this, and you know this needs to be handled as well. And is that kind of how it works?
It is. Yeah. And some people will have quite a bit of family there with them, but it's still good to have a stranger there, somebody who's well trained, because they can concentrate with each other, but they're all going through a trauma. So to have a volunteer there who knows the system, who knows what's going on, and can be very diplomatic with them, can know the right things to say, I think is very useful. At the same time, some people don't want a stranger. They don't want what we call that emotional first aid, that psychological first aid, and they are more private. And so the one thing, how we're a little different from what TIP was, is we are more advocates also. And so we really work at letting them have their privacy, letting them have their space, but then letting them know we'll help them through the practical stuff, but we'll give them their space.
Do you still stay? What if you show up and I flat out say, Sue, I don't want you here?
Right, and if they do, and and most of the time it's appropriate for us to leave, we go, that's fine, I can go. And we may suggest to them, I might be able to help get your questions answered or get you information. If you want, I can stay back out of the way, and if you have questions, come to me. So we try to, it depends on the person. And I'll give you an example. I was actually on a call, I think it was July 2nd over here, and it was a woman who, it was domestic violence, and she had been quite just beat up by her boyfriend, her significant other, and she was taken to the hospital. So Verde Valley Medical Center requested, and I was the volunteer on duty, so I went over there with her, and she really did not want anybody with her, and that was okay. But I ended up being there for about 4 hours. I stayed outside her hospital room, and then when things were going on, I would go in and let her know, okay, now it's going to be this or that. And with the deputies, there were quite a few deputies around to question her and different
get the
things.
story, statements,
get
all
the
that.
Story, yeah. So I would help to make sure she understood what was going to go on, though they're great at it, but I was just I was there to make sure she understood what was going to go on.
Maybe we should bring up the fact why these programs exist in the first place. It used to be that, okay, so my spouse and I, we have a house fire, and maybe she dies in the fire. You've got the firefighters there,
Yes.
You've got the police there, and everybody's got a job that they've got to do, and here I am sitting there with kind of lost and not knowing what to do, traumatized, of course. Here's my house, my wife's gone, and this person, the whole idea was to make sure this person does not get lost in that mix.
Right. It is.
Is that?
Yes, and that's a great way to put it. We're there to make sure that you are addressed, what your needs are, what's going on, and they are so busy doing their job. I think in the past it would be, there would be somebody who would try to come over and comfort the person, you know, from maybe a firefighter or a police officer, but they really need to stay in their role.
Right.
And they are busy. So with us there, it frees them up, so they have one less person that needs to deal with that or stay with them. Sometimes they would stay with the person after, when they needed to get back into service. And so with us as a volunteer, it's a very inexpensive way for them to provide something to make sure that the people are taken care of.
It's going to take a special kind of person like Sue Rutherford to be able to do a job like this.
It does take very special people. We have quite a few, but I will say it's probably the toughest type of volunteering.
I couldn't do it.
Most people.
I don't think I could do it.
My husband couldn't do it. He tried, and because you're with people on just during such horrible times in their life, and to go through that over and over. So it takes people who can do it and be very compassionate and be in the moment with them, but then also be able to walk away later and put that behind yourself, because otherwise you see so much.
But how do you do that? I've asked law enforcement that too. You know, our DPS troopers, you know, they pull up on these crashes where there's literally body parts and homicides and these domestic violence. And I mean, how do you see that every day and then just turn it off and go home? I mean,
for a lot of us, at least in our area, I don't know about law enforcement, sometimes you can't turn it off right away.
Okay.
Because some things are just so horrific. It takes, for me, myself, and I think a lot of volunteers are similar to I am, it takes about 24 hours for me. I process it. So we talk about it. We have another person you can talk to. You're talking through about what went on, what you saw, and it's kind of processing it. And then it's like, okay, that's not my tragedy. It's not my crisis. I need to put that behind me. And so
you need a crisis team member to help the crisis team member.
We do.
Sometimes, right?
Our volunteers are very compassionate and supportive of each other. So sometimes they go to lunch, they stop and have coffee together, do things so that they can really debrief. And then we will be meeting monthly, so that and part of it is it's time to what we share about what we went through.
Right. You know? Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. We'll take another break. And when we come back, maybe we talk a little bit about the training and how people can volunteer.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yep.
Okay. Sue Rutherford, Executive Director of the Arizona Crisis Team, is in studio today. Phone number is 928-515-4173. Website is azcrisisteam.org. Countywide back in just a couple minutes.
The Q102.9 plays all the hits.
Yo, what's going on? This is Drizzy Drake.
Ariana Grande.
Maroon 5.
This is Rihanna.
I'm Shawn Mendes.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
Ed Sheeran.
What's up, guys? It's Justin Bieber.
You're listening to The Weeknd.
Start your day with Brian James in the morning. You'll get at least 10 songs in a row during your ride home with Julie Page.
Zach Sang Show.
Catch the Zach Sang Show weeknights 7 to midnight. And Kelly Fox weekends on your home for hit music. The Q102.9 and 104.9 in Prescott and Cottonwood.
This was me. And Mom and Dad. And my big brother Alex. And Jack. And this was the day that I learned that sandals get their name from sand. That jellyfish aren't made of jelly. That stars don't just come from the sky. That the ocean is bigger than all of us. This is the day we all got to forget that I was sick. And it changed everything. This was my wish.
I call you and say, I'm with the IRS. You owe back taxes, and if you don't pay today, you're going to jail. You can fix this by sending cash. Did you actually believe me? Too smart to fall for it? Well, last year, Americans paid $100 million to guys like me. 1 in 6 people were scammed. Can you believe it? Well, you shouldn't. I just made that up, too. You are a little gullible.
Welcome back to Countywide. We've got just a couple minutes left of the program. Sue Rutherford here. Arizona Crisis Team, azcrisisteam.org is the website. So let's talk training real quick. How does that work, and how long does it last for anybody who wants to volunteer?
Well, we are going to have a training in September.
Okay.
And so in the Verde Valley area, it's starting September 21st. The Prescott area, September 14th. It's around 50 hours of training, so it's pretty intensive. It'll be done within a couple weeks, and then they can go through that. So we're going to train them similar to how Tip was trained in how to be with people, what to say, what not to say, just how to be in a crisis. And also, are they able to handle that too? You know, some of the
How do you test for that?
Well, I can't give that away.
You can't give that away?
No, because then a lot more people might pass the test. I don't know.
Okay.
There are ways
could you test me right here like this?
No. It would take me a weekend.
Oh, a weekend.
Yeah, so the first weekend is they're trying to decide, do they want to do this when they're going through training? The first training, it's always Thursday night, Friday. It will be Thursday night, Friday night, all day Saturday, and all day Sunday. And during that period of time, they're looking to see, can they handle this? Can they do it? And then we're looking to see, can they handle this and can they do it? And it's about the emotional part of it. Can they emotionally handle it? Yeah. So we do that.
And I would imagine that's a huge part of it.
It is. It's huge, huge. And we've had some people that have done extremely well in the past. With Tip, I did. But then once they started doing it, they were like, no, this is just too much. Because when you're out in the real world. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So it's you have 50 volunteers, you said, right now.
Yes.
So a lot of the volunteers that were with you before are stayed in transition right on over.
They wanted to come over to Arizona Crisis Team, so we got them all set up and prepared and trained and all.
How often are you called out?
It so varies. It depends on what's going on.
There's like a standard volunteer answer. It depends on how much you can give, really.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I have to say how many calls average per month.
Okay.
But one person might get several calls and another may get none. Over in Verde Valley, we're probably called out 15, 20 times a month, which isn't much, but it's going to increase. And over in the Prescott area, it's about 30 to 40 times per month.
Okay.
You know, but I've been over here. I volunteer a lot over in Verde Valley, and I have gone out on 3 calls in one shift myself, and then no calls. So it's a good thing when we're not called. I mean, we're hoping it means it's a good day.
It'd be great if the police never had to go anywhere and the fire departments had to go anywhere. I mean, that would be a perfect world. I wouldn't have a job, you wouldn't have a job, and we'd be doing something entirely different right now. But you did say, and we've got about a minute left, that there are some outlying areas that maybe we could reach out to. You mentioned Black Canyon City gets to be kind of a stretch, so if folks can hear us in Black Canyon City.
Black Canyon City, up in Seligman, Ash Fork area.
Okay.
We can get there, but it's a length
We're looking
of time.
for what did you say? We're looking for a 30-minute response time where Sue calls you and says, "Hey, we need you at this address."
Yep. Here's who's requesting you. And we only go on scene where the emergency personnel are. So, you know, they've cleared it as being safe.
So I'm seeing the Verde Valley and Prescott as kind of this wheel, this kind of hub, and it's these really outlying areas on the edges of the county that really need the help. So if we get some volunteers from, like I said, Black Canyon City, Baghdad, Seligman, Ash Fork, all those outside areas, that'd be nice to get them in, and then you could cover the whole county really well.
And our other big need is the Verde Valley, Sedona area, just because we're getting busier and we need more volunteers over here.
Okay, the growth is definitely starting to be seen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not interesting, huh?
Yeah.
17 years you've been coming in talking about this sort of a program, and busier and busier every year.
Yes.
So that's kind of a shame.
Yeah.
Well, it's good seeing you.
Good to see you.
I'm so glad you made it. It was really great. Sue Rutherford, she's the Executive Director of the Arizona Crisis Team. The website is azcrisisteam.org. Phone number again is 928-515-4173. Thanks for watching and listening. This is Countywide, and we'll talk to you again next time.